This is the FitnessFest Podcast detailing the story of fitness professionals from around the world. Let's get to the episode. Welcome to the FitnessFest Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm the president of KIPS and Kettlebell Concepts. Today, we have Dr. Evan Osar to share his background, share where he came from, and all that good stuff. So, Dr. Osar, what's your story in the fitness industry? Can you give the listeners a little bit of background before you started your company, the Integrative Movement Specialists?
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Tyler. And it's great to share this information with your community. Yeah, I started as a personal trainer. I started personal training a long time ago. It seems like a long time ago. I started out in college doing personal training, and then I went to chiropractic school through a series of, steps and fortunes that came into my life and people that came into my life that influenced me. And when I got my first job here in Chicago, I wasn't working mornings and I wasn't really making a lot of money. So I went back to personal training in the morning. So I started training at the East Bank Club of Chicago, which is the number one money-making club in the country. I should say it was back then. Back 21 years ago when I started there, they were making $54 million a year. So I'm sure it's way much more today. And people like Oprah Winfrey works out there. I got to hold the door open for Oprah Winfrey one day, and she just walked through and ignored me. But it was kind of cool. Michael Jordan and a bunch of the Bulls and Blackhawk players all worked out there. So it was a really cool experience there. So I went back to, like I said, I started personal training, and it was really an influential time for me because while I wanted to work primarily with athletes, so I'm a young stud, or I thought I was a young stud coming out of chiropractic school, and I was into functional training. This is back in the late 90s, and functional training was all the rage. And I'm like, yeah, let's train people and like athletes. And you'd hear these sort of things in the industry. I mean, you sort of still hear them in the industry. So I try to train these people in 3 planes of motion and train them like athletes. However, at the time, I also was giving. The cool thing about East Bank Club of Chicago, they have so many members and you never have to worry about getting your own clients. So they would just give you clients. Well, they weren't giving me the athletes. They weren't giving me the people that were fit. They were giving me the older generation, the older population. And I quickly learned that, 10 years of college and, several years of personal training experience, I didn't really actually know how to work with these people. And it was very frustrating for me to think at the time I'd spent $150,000 on my education. Now that month, that's equivalent to about $300,000 today. And I didn't really know how to train these people. So I'd go to all these conferences, right? I'd go to all these big conferences like the Perform Betters and the big industry events. I listened to all the gurus, like, the Mike Boyles and the Gray Cooks and the Gary Grays. And, they'd be like, oh, train people in 3 planes of motion, train everybody like an athlete. So I'd come back and, be enthusiastic, like most people are when they can go to these events. I'd come back and use the information with my clients, and this didn't work. My clients barely got better. And most of the time they actually still experienced all the same aches and pains they came to me with. And I still thought it was me. I thought it was me. I'm like, I'm just not very good at what I do. Maybe it's just me. I'm not doing something right. And I don't have enough experience. And it really wasn't until I started to experience injuries. Like at the age of 30, I got myself into the best shape of my life at that time. I was strong. I was fit. I was lean. And at one point, I could do 90-pound seated dumbbell presses, it kind of sounded like my father, how your father's like, I used to walk up 5 mountains to get to school, it sort of sound like that a little bit. So again, I got pretty strong, but at one point, around 2000, 2001, I could barely get a 20-pound dumbbell over my head, and my arm was shaking, and I had no idea what a labral tear and rotator cuff tears were of the shoulders. But now I can look back and say, oh, okay, that's exactly what, I experienced all the symptoms of losing strength and losing stability in my shoulders and range of motion and so forth. And so it was a very frustrating process for me because, all I heard was, train like an athlete, train in 3 planes of motion, train explosively, train for everyday life. And here I was shot, I was beat. And what was more frustrating is I was a chiropractic physician, or I should say I am. And I had to do manual work with my hands and my shoulders. And I was struggling, like really struggling. And it was really that struggle, my personal struggle, like to help my shoulders, my own shoulders, and continue to work as a chiropractic physician, as well as continue to serve my client population that really started me on the journey to discovering the integrative movement system. And now I can look back and say, oh yes, what I was doing was completely inappropriate and wrong. And I do believe, this is sort of controversial. I do believe a lot of what we're teaching as an industry is actually leading to an increase in injury and issues with our clients and the general exercise population. And, my mission is, and my wife's mission, we work together. Our mission is to up-level the education of fitness professionals, because like I said, I started as a personal trainer, and that profession is very passionate. I'm very passionate, and it's very important to me. And I do believe that fitness professionals are the solution to the healthcare crisis, or I should say a big part of the solution to the healthcare crisis, because they deal with the number one, or a few of the most common causes of, health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And that is mindset, that is movement, that is nutrition. And when you think about the healthcare professionals that most people see, chiropractors, physical therapists, medical doctors, again, there's exceptions, but for the majority of them, they don't deal with mindset. They don't deal with movement in a positive way, and they don't deal with nutrition. And those are the things that directly are correlating to increased risk of disease and the decrease of the quality of one's life. And, I have multimillionaire, billionaire, I have several billionaire clients. And I'll tell you, these people have tons of money. And I don't care how much money you have. When you don't have your health, you're not happy. You're not in a good place. Yeah, you can enjoy a lot of things in life. You can fly on private planes. You can own your own planes. Clients that own, build and own their own buildings. It's fascinating to see what these people have created. But when you're in pain most of your life, or you can't do the things you want to do, you can't get down on the floor and play with your grandchildren. It's all the money in the world doesn't buy you health. So I'm very passionate about helping people reclaim their health, to be proactive about their health, and really help health and fitness professionals understand their role in the healthcare realm, and to be a powerful and influential person in their clients' lives, and to attract more individuals. Because that's the thing, so many fitness professionals aren't making the money they want to make and earning the living they want to earn, doing the thing they love to do. Most fitness professionals are so passionate about what they do, but they're not earning the money that they want, and they quickly have to get, very soon. Like, I think the average, lifespan of a personal trainer is 3 years, 3 years. And then they're out of the industry because they have to go get a quote unquote real job, right?
Yeah.
To get benefits and to make more money. So it's really, we're really on a mission to help from an educational standpoint, up level the education, and then work with, partner with people who are more the business side, so we can give them the education they need to be the solution, but then also the business acuity also, or the business skills, I should say, so that they can develop a real business around being a fitness professional.
That's good stuff. And there's so many different items I wanted to touch on right there, because I feel like we share many common themes. I will honestly say that it's very, I don't want to say strange or different when you talk to somebody and you immediately tell that I'm sure that we share very similar views on the education being presented, the way that personal trainers are handling themselves, and even the way that I'll call it the state of the industry for the fitness industry. So I think the one that I would like to go down the rabbit hole with you, because I think this is going to be an interesting topic for individuals to hear, with your educational background, my educational background, and even our experiences so far within the fitness industry. For listeners chiming in for this episode, I've spent the past 8 years working for educational companies, working for 2 of the top 10 educational providers, and yet it's still a mission to try to improve that process. Would you be willing to share? It's okay if you don't, but would you be willing to share some of those items that you feel like we can improve upon with education, and also some of those topics that you mentioned, the way that we are telling personal trainers how to work with clients?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First, I want to just say, I do believe that personal trainers, fitness professionals are the solution. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Oh, yeah.
So when I say this out of kindness, love, and passion for the industry. However, most fitness professionals have a weekend certification, and that is not enough. When you think of all the professions that work with general population clients, when you think of massage therapists, 6 months minimum in school. When you think of exercise physiologists. They have a bachelor's minimum, probably a master's. So you're looking at 6 years of education. If you're looking at a physical therapist, you're looking minimally at 6 years of education. A chiropractor, minimally 6 to 7 years of education. A medical doctor, minimum 7 to 8 to 9 years of education. And now you look at the person who sees clients the most, right? When you think of like a medical doctor sees their patient 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 times a year, right? Maybe more frequently if they're dealing with a chronic disease like cancer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, 1, 2, 3 times a year at max. You look at a chiropractor, maybe they see the client 1 time a week, or maybe for a short period of time, and then they see the client maybe once a month or once every few months, a physical therapist for a short period of time. But when you look at the profession that spends the most amount of time by far with individuals is the fitness professional, the personal trainer. Who has the least amount of education, spends the most amount of time with people, but has the least amount of education to actually work with people? It's personal trainers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big disconnect between the education and the amount of time that these individuals are spending with the general population. So there's a huge gap there. However, it also creates a huge potential for those health and fitness professionals, especially the fitness professionals. I'm talking more to those, for up-leveling your education, because clients come to you with their medical history and they're looking to you as a professional. And they don't understand that most fitness professionals only have a weekend certification and maybe a few extracurricular certifications or continuing education hours. They think that they're educated like a physical therapist or a chiropractor or a medical doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So they come and give you their health. And I take that very seriously. That I understand when people come to me, there's a few things in life that are most precious to an individual, right? I think the most precious thing, I don't have children, so I'm talking out of context, so to speak, but I've talked to obviously a lot of people that do have children.
Mm-hmm.
And children, number one, children and or grandchildren, number one most important thing in individuals' lives, right? Number two, their money. Their money is the second most important. And number three is their health. And for most people, it usually comes money, then health, because they'll risk their health and work crazy hours and not sleep and stress themselves out to go to work and make money and provide for themselves and for their family. But they don't always take their health into consideration, or the health comes secondary. So that's why I have it number three. So when you think about it, children, money, and then their health. So those are the three most important things. So when people come to see me in my clinic, I understand the sacrifice, or I shouldn't say the sacrifice. Maybe it's a sacrifice because maybe they're sacrificing money and or time, right? But I understand the importance, the value of this relationship that we're about to go into, and that the person is trusting me with one of the three most valuable assets that they have in their life, or the things that are most important to them, the health being the health, their health and well-being. So I take that very seriously, and it upsets me. And I imagine you sort of resonate with this as well. When I'm in a commercial gym facility and I see personal trainers on their cell phones, or they're looking around, or they're talking about themselves more than they're paying attention to their client, or they're giving their clients completely nonsense exercises because the client just wants a good workout. So I get a visceral reaction to that or when I hear my patients that come in and I ask them about their personal training experience, and I'm like, so what did the personal trainer do with you on day one? They're like, oh, they just put me through a workout. I was so sore. I'm like, that is completely irresponsible. You would never go to, here's a great analogy. You take your car's making some crazy sound, or it's not running well. You take it into a mechanic, and then you come back later on and it's $1,000 bill. And you ask the mechanic, hey, what's going on with your car? And the mechanic is like, oh, I don't know. I changed some spark plugs. I changed the muffler. I changed this and that. And you're like, was there anything wrong with it? No, but you just said it was making a noise. So I just changed a bunch of stuff, and, hopefully we got the right thing. You would never, that sounds so funny, but that's like going to a personal trainer, and the personal trainer says, hey, you know what? Let's go do a workout. I'm going to show you how to burn your glutes or burn your biceps or tone your abs. It's like, you haven't taken the client's history. You don't know anything about them. You don't actually really even know their goals, except for they said that maybe they want to lose some weight or tone up or something like that. And it's like, it's completely an irresponsible model to be working with a client. If somebody came to me and I didn't do a history and I didn't do an exam on them and know what medications they're on, or what surgeries and trauma they've had, or what's going on, or what their goals are, they would walk out like I'm a quack, but they will trust their health to, a weekend certified personal trainer. So, and again, I'm not trying to diss on the industry. I'm just trying to explain the reality of what's happening out there, and that there's an incredible opportunity for those passionate health and fitness professionals that are ready to step up and be the leaders that our industry needs, that their clients need, and their potential clients, the potential clients are looking for, because it's out there. Those people are out there looking for the leaders of the industry. And if you position yourself right, and you have the right education, and you have the right business model, people will find you 100%.
Oh yeah. I will say 100% you're right with the educational perspective. And I mentioned this with our last guest that we had on the FitnessFest podcast, who's the senior director of fitness for a very large chain in this country. And we talked about exactly these points with the education that's provided for an entry-level certification. It's bare minimum stuff. There are individuals that go to college and will spend semesters on the intermediate education and then have advanced versions of that later on. So to say that you can take a weekend workshop, read about 20 pages worth of content on exercise phys, anatomy, and then go work with clients, it's not realistic. And so now switching the mindset. So what are those key points? What are those things that a personal trainer needs? And I think that this is the disconnect. And this is actually where I shaped my own personal trainer certification, is on those interpersonal skills. And I'm bringing that up right now because you mentioned a very key aspect that we often forget as personal trainers, fitness pros, is the mental aspect. We forget that when working with clients, because we grew up being athletes or being people that we get that fitness is and exercise is important for health. That's a part of our life. But with normal clients that come in, it's not. This is hard for them to walk in that door. That took so much courage. So those interpersonal skills are often things that we forget as fitness professionals. And how can we tailor this session to make them feel comfortable, get them to want to work with you, invest their money? And so I really think it's that mental aspect that you mentioned. And I like that you brought that a part of what you've already mentioned, because we don't think of those things.
I absolutely agree. And one thing I'll just add to what you said, Tyler, is one of the things that is very important for, regardless of the industry, and I know people have heard about this, the whole bedside manner of a medical doctor, right? Most medical doctors, they feel, and again, I'm generalizing. I know there's some awesome, amazing medical professionals out there. I feel fortunate that I know some of these individuals and work with some of these individuals, but a lot of the frustration that I'm sure you have heard from your clients or people in your family, your friends, is the doctor comes in, they spend 10 minutes with you, they never touch you, and then they're prescribing you medication, surgery, or they're sending you out to physical therapy. There's no connection. There's none of that interpersonal relationship that's developed. And every session, I should say at least the first session, I'm spending 75 minutes. So they're filling out an intensive intake form. And then my first session is 75 minutes. A follow-up session is 45 minutes to an hour in time. So because people that come to us and come to you, and I'm sure you resonate with this, Tyler, is they don't want that 5-minute treatment or the 10-minute treatment, or that go to the chiropractor that just cracks them and then they're out the door. They they need and want someone who understands them and is invested in their process. I'll give you a short example. Is I have a patient right now that's out in Vail. I referred him out to the Dr. Mark Philippon out in Vail. He treats a lot of the top level athletes in the country in all sports. And my client wants to play semi-pro soccer. So I took him as far as we could. And I'm like, if you want to get to back to semi-pro soccer, you need to go see Philippon. You actually need hip surgery. And then we'll continue once you're done. And, I called him before he left for his trip. He just had the surgery, and I said, have your mom call me as soon as you're out of your surgery. So his mother called me. I texted him the same day, of his surgery. And now I'll have a call with him probably later today or tomorrow just to check in. And patients love that. Your clients love the fact that you're invested, because you're not just a number, right? You're not just a statistic or a name on your schedule, on your book, that you're invested in their health and their well-being. And they love that. And they will refer their friends and family because they they know that you trust them, and you are only or they trust you, and you're only looking out for their best interests. And that's, those soft skills, those interpersonal skills that will make all the difference in your career. And I know most of the people listening to you, probably all the people listening to your podcast, Tyler, you got into this industry because you love people and you want to help people. So please, one of the things I wish I had done earlier on in my career is get more involved in people's lives that way, because people will really, they'll love that experience. Yep. And they'll resonate with that. And some of them won't. Some of them will be like, hey, just stay out of my life. And you'll get that vibe as well. Mm-hmm. But most of your clients and your patients, they want you to be involved, and they want to share experiences with you and know that you're part of their life, because you are a huge part of their life. And, I'm sure you've had this experience, Tyler, that and everybody listening, the patient or the client has told you things that, like, I haven't told anybody. I don't even tell my therapist this stuff. And they're telling you stuff, and you're like, you're looking around, you're like, I don't know if I should know this stuff. And, a little TMI, right? But that's how much they trust you. That's how much they trust you. So use those interpersonal skills and those relationships, build that trust. And like there's nothing that the client won't eventually do for you, even if they are that new person. But what will easily turn them off is when because like you said, Tyler, I think this is a great point that sometimes I even gloss over. We were all former athletes, or we love fitness. We love what fitness gives us and does for us. And even days when we don't feel like working out, we still work out because we understand the importance. Yep. But for some people, that's not their life. I'm awful with business, the numbers and the nitty gritty of things that I should know and understand, but I actually don't understand. My wife takes care of that aspect of our business. Thankfully, I should understand it. However, I'm not that guy. So I need an accountant to help me figure out my tax situation and issues. I need a financial planner to help me, plan for my future, because I need those coaches in my life, because that's not where my passion is. That's not what I'm very good at. Yes, I need to learn more, and I need to be more, involved in that process, but that's not where my head goes to. So your clients need you, and they need someone who's going to help take them on that journey. So just, keep that in mind. And I'm super appreciative that you brought that point up, Tyler.
That's good. That's good. And I mean, when I used to work more with, I'll say, interns, I used to own a business. I still own a business, but I used to own a boot camp business. Mm-hmm. And we had an internship program with the local university. And I used to tell them quite often that right now, for what we're doing, 70% is interpersonal skills, 30% is your education. Because I wanted them to build that bond with the participants in the boot camp while they're learning the business of it, while they're learning exercise, instruction, all those kinds of things, and really working on those other skills. Interpersonal skills are so important with that. So I'm sure we could talk on that a bit. And before we go into more of your background and bio, I kind of want to go back on one item, because we share this item, I'll say, and that is shoulder injuries. I've had my fair share of shoulder injuries, both my shoulders. And for me, what I discovered was actually, and this was within 2 years, was my love of actually Indian clubs, light Indian club work.
Oh, cool.
And what that did for restoring my shoulder health, and the Highland Games competitions that I compete in, it really restored that health for it. And recently I've been incorporating more with the body blade with my shoulder. And that was almost a light bulb moment for you. What was it for you with your shoulders?
So when I first, I had my first shoulder injuries. So I grew up on a sort of a farm. My sister's like, we didn't grow up on a farm. Like, yeah, we had a garden, and then we ate the food out of the garden, and we had chickens and we ate the eggs. And when the chickens were old, we ate the chickens. So I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a farm, So I grew up on a farm, and then as a young kid, I worked for a woodcutter, a local woodcutter. So I'd use a chainsaw and axes, and we heated our house with firewood. So we chop it, axes and all that. So it was all about physical work. I can honestly say to you, Tyler, I literally never had an injury. Never. I sprained my ankle once as a kid because I fell on a concrete step, when I was running away from my brother. That was the only injury I ever had as a kid, up to the point when I started lifting weights. So I'm 16 years old. I'm the same height as I am now at 16. I was 5'10". Look at my head. Look how big my head is. So my big head on a 5'10" body. I weighed 120 pounds. So people used to make fun of me. They're like, you look like a broom, like, because I had a big afro at the time, let's go back in the 80s when I actually did have hair. They're like, you look like a broom or like one of those puff weeds, like skinny little stalk and then big puffy, so I started lifting weights. So the first book I got was Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. So that was a super influential book for me. So that book changed my life because I followed his routine and I got really big into bodybuilding and I got really big and strong. Like I said, never had an injury besides that one ankle injury, sprained ankle. For the first time in my life, I'm like, oh, I got some of this shoulder pain when I was doing some incline bench press. So, it's somewhere around 18 years of age, I went to the medical doctor, and my mom never took us to the doctor, maybe like once a year for a physical, but literally never took us to a doctor. I'd be like, rub some dirt on it. Let's just get back into the game, So I go to the doctor and he's like, yeah, you got, what was a classic diagnosis that doctors give you? It's either bursitis or tendonitis, So it's like, you got some bursitis. So, take some anti-inflammatories, take some time off from work. And I'm like, not going to happen, So, I just, you're young and my mom, we literally never had medication. So I'm not taking any medication. So I just muscled through it and sooner or later the pain goes away till the pain comes back again. And then slowly but surely the pain started coming back, maybe it would be every 6 months. And now it's like every 3 months. And then it's every month. And then you're just kind of muscling through. And my goal was to bench 335 or 315 because I just wanted those 3 plates on the bar, to hear that little clanging noise, the old metal weights, and I got to that point. But then I got to, that was in chiropractic school and, that's when my shoulders really got bad. So I went to physical therapy. So what did they teach me about in physical therapy? They're like, oh, Evan, you got the forward shoulder, you got the elevated shoulders like this, and that's when Yanda's upper cross syndrome was all popular. So what did they have me do? Squeeze down and back, chest up, squeeze down and back, build those back muscles, stretch out the anterior chest. Or the chest region. So I just followed and I could get to the point where I could row entire stack. I could do pull downs with the entire stack on the pull down machine. My buddy would stand on the pull down machine for more weight. I would do, pull ups with weights around my waist. So I got real strong back muscles and my shoulders just continued to get worse. And I even went through a point where I'm like, I'm going to stop training chest, just stretch my chest out and just work back muscles. Shoulders just kept getting worse until the point I told you where I had the rotator cuffs and labral tears. And so I finally found a physical therapist. Was the first physical therapist that she's like, hey dude, your shoulders are on your waist. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I was taught that shoulders are up here all the time. She's like, no, you completely overstretched your upper trapezius. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. And she's like, yeah, you're super tight in some of your back muscles and you need to do this and this and this. And it was the first time like somebody had taken a different approach and made me start to think like, hey, wait a second, maybe some of what I've been learning isn't 100% correct. So then I started to change a little bit of what I was doing. I started to release more underneath my arm. I stopped stretching my chest and my upper traps. I started to look. So through a series of education and studying child development, and then around that time, I started to learn child development and what children do. And I have this picture of my niece that I show in our shoulder lecture, and it shows her in a plank position. She's laying on my chest. She's doing a plank on my chest, and I looked at her shoulder blades, and her shoulder blades were around her rib cage. They weren't down and back like we got taught to do during a plank. There's no retraction and depression. They were actually protracted, and I'm like, maybe something about what we're teaching ourselves about the shoulder. So then I'm like, okay, let me focus more on getting wider through my shoulders and actually getting better protraction and scapular stability in that position. And lo and behold, all of a sudden my shoulders started to feel better. And I started to move away from some of the things that we got taught in the industry, like the chest up and squeezing down and back. And lo and behold, my shoulders started to get better. Now, fast forward, my wife, when I started dating my wife, she had a 20-year history of chronic migraine. She was around 25 at the time when I met her, and she had been diagnosed with migraines at the age of 5. She was taken to the emergency room one time when she was 5 years of age. She was turning blue. She wasn't breathing, so her parents rushed her to the emergency room, and they're like, she's all right. Just take her back home. But she suffered from chronic migraines. She was living off 1,000 milligrams of ibuprofen almost every day. She was on birth control to stop her period to help with the migraines. She would be drinking Coke all the time to help with the migraines. She was working as a massage therapist. I met her in massage school. I was actually her teacher, which was pretty scandalous. but we didn't date until after she graduated. And then she came back and taught at the school as well. So I was just getting into some of this child development information at the time. And I remember very, very, very succinctly, I remember hugging her, and I just put my hands on her rib cage like this, and she had the narrowest rib cage front to back, like literally, like no joke, no exaggeration. Her rib cage was this thick front to back, and it wasn't like round. Like the rib cage should be round, right? It should be sort of like a cylinder, right? Her rib cage was like almost like a rectangle, like a flat, like long rectangle, and I'm like, this is kind of weird. And she had completely reversed. She had a lordosis from her lumbar spine all the way to her neck. So, and then I looked at her breathing. I'm like, wow, she's really a shallow breather. She really doesn't breathe into her rib cage at all. And she's really hyperextended through her back. So we started to release her back muscles and started to breathe into her rib cage more. And within 18 months, 0 migraines.
Wow.
Off all her medication. And to this day, so now she's 40, so I'm 51, she's 46. So 20 years later, she's had 0 migraines. The only time she gets a headache is usually around her period, and or if she's been drinking too much and not drinking enough water. However, no more migraines,
Amazing.
0 medication. And when I say that there's 2 things that can change people's lives. Number 1 is learning how to breathe properly. And the second thing is hip hinging. I think those 2, I know those 2 are the most important patterns that can change people's lives. And like I said, my wife was living off ibuprofen and birth control. She had no period. The birth control had stopped her period for almost a year and it didn't stop her migraines. She still had migraines. So imagine it, 20 more years of no periods and living off ibuprofen to deal with chronic migraines. And now she's got no headaches and takes 0 medication. So when I say that breathing and hip hinging can change people's lives, it can change people's lives. Because when you start to study the biomechanics of respiration and how important it is, from stability, from mobility, from digestion, from circulation, from balancing out the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, it is life-changing. And I was just doing an interview a couple of days ago, and a woman was asking me, she's like, why do you think most people don't focus on breathing? I'm like, number 1, they don't know. They don't understand the importance of breathing. Or they conceptually understand it, but they don't realize how important it is to breathe 3-dimensionally. And the second reason is trainers tend to get bored very easily, right? It's a bright, shiny object, or the squirrel syndrome, right? It's like, ooh, what's this person doing over here? What's this athlete doing over here? And 3-dimensional breathing is seen as one of those trendy, fad things, and quite frankly, boring. But when you understand how powerful it is, and you actually train it, and you train it well, like I said, it's life-changing. Every single patient, without exception, that comes into our office gets 3-dimensional breathing, because it's what ultimately helped change my shoulders. It's what ultimately helped change my wife's chronic migraines. It's the most common cause of low back pain, pelvic floor issues. It's, even talking to my pelvic floor therapist, I'm like, what's the number 1 thing you do for pelvic floor? She's like, 3-dimensional breathing and making sure they breathe all the way down into their pelvic floor, because the diaphragm and pelvic floor move together. So when you start to think about the dynamics of 3-dimensional breathing and the ramifications of how powerful it is, and the side effects of not breathing well, because most of our clients are not breathing well. They're breathing very shallowly and rapidly, and that is the exact prescription for upregulation of the sympathetic nervous system. And now, especially now today, Tyler, right? We're dealing with huge amounts of anxiety. I told you we live on the south side of Chicago. I mean, it's for real. Like, what you see in the news, it's for real. Like, my wife has been held up by kids with guns. We are continually harassed. I mean, during the protests and rioting, there's 24/7 helicopters, and we actually had a little PTSD from that, like hearing helicopters and sirens 24/7 for that entire weekend, as this chaos was going around us. And people are dealing with COVID and maybe their own health or the health of their family members, their businesses being shut down, and people losing their businesses, their jobs. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of anxiety and stress and isolation. So 3-dimensional breathing, again, it's not going to bring your business back, but can it help you manage some of the anxiety and stress and sympathetic issues that are associated with all these world events that are going on? Absolutely. That's the one thing we can do one of the small things we can do that can have a pretty powerful and profound impact on our health, even amidst all this craziness that's going on in our world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good stuff. And hearing you talk about your shoulder and the road to recovery with them and what you learned through that process. And then even with your wife, you can see what education does for all that. And, myself, we both love education,
Yeah,
with
for
our
sure,
educational backgrounds. And even with the podcast that I just recorded prior to this, I was speaking with somebody about bar. And outside of this podcast, the training I do is more powerlifting, Olympic lifting for the sport I compete in. But to learn more about bar and how it could potentially benefit in those areas, I saw that is such a huge area to learn more about. The reason I bring that up is that I think many times fitness professionals, we get caught up in one specific area, but already you've mentioned many different ones, and even ways that you always threw in that part about the business aspect, what it can do for your business, what it can do for picking up clients or even speaking with individuals. So I think this is a very interesting question right here is what made you choose chiropractic school? I know that many fitness pros, they look at potentially DPT school. They look at maybe a master's degree. And chiropractic school is another popular one. What made you choose that route for yourself?
Yes, a great question. And I'm a big believer in the right people come into your life at the right time. I'm a huge believer in, I don't think things happen randomly. I think there's a reason things happen. So yeah, obviously there's some random, things that happen time to time, but I think the universe is very strategic, and you can say God, depending on your beliefs, is very strategic about the people that God or the universe puts into your life. And I was finishing up my 2-year degree, my associate's degree, and my major was recreation and leisure. I took recreation and leisure as a major because I didn't want to go to college, but I didn't know what else to do. So, and I had to pay for my own college, so I was working full time, going to school part time, and it was the easiest major that I could have because I hated math and I hated science, and I basically cheated my way through math and science in high school. And I'm not happy to say that or proud to say that, but it was just the reality of the situation. So I took recreation and leisure because it only required either one math or one science to complete the associate's degree. So in the gym, I was born in Jersey. I moved to upstate New York, and I moved back to Jersey for college. So I started working out at this gym, and I met my buddy in the gym. I just saw him working out every morning at the same time I was there. So we started a friendship, and he actually became, at the time, my best friend. So he was also going to county college, and I'm like, what are you going to school for? He's like, I'm going to school to be a chiropractor. I'm finishing up my science degree here, and then I'm going to head out to Palmer College of Chiropractic. So I had to take that one math or one science. So in my head, I'm like, I hate both subjects. Which was the worst? I really hate numbers and math, and I'm not good at them. So I'm like, let me try science because at least I have a better shot at passing that class. Well, I was always under the belief. Now, I went to Catholic school, and I went to, public high school, and, I was a decent student, but I was not a great student. And it sounds weird to say, but I never really understood that smart people studied. I thought you were either born and you were smart, or you're born and you're not so smart. And maybe some of us were there in the middle. And I was kind of one of the guys there in the middle. Like, I didn't really study that much, but I studied just enough to pass the test and be decent and get decent grades. I didn't realize that smart people actually study. And my buddy Mike, like he is super strict, diligent guy. Like he literally, like 4 classes, right? 4 classes, like nothing. When I went to chiropractic school, we had 10 classes a semester, right? So 4 classes is like nothing. So he would go to school, like, in the morning, and then he'd come home and study all afternoon for those 4 classes every day. And when I took a science class with him, he taught me, it was biology 101. So I took the class with him, and I would go to his house after, on my days off from work and just study with him. And it was just fascinating to me to see, like, I'm like, holy cow, this is what you do. You just sit here for hours and just study, And so, like I said, I cheated my way through high school science, barely got through. So there's a class of maybe like 100 people. I got the second highest grade. I got like a 96 in the class. And It was the first time in my life that I was like, holy cow, I'm actually kind of smart, and I wouldn't say that now, but back at the time, I'm like, this is pretty crazy. Like, you can actually be study and be smart and get good grades, I literally changed my major to science, pre-med. So I had to go back and take all my science and math classes. And then I went away to school, I got my associate's degree in science. Then I got my bachelor's degree in science. And then ultimately my buddy, I was going to go to physical therapy school. And my buddy Mike was in chiropractic school already. He's like, dude, just come to chiropractic school and you can do physical therapy as a chiropractor. And so that's ultimately how I made it out to chiropractic school and got me to where I am here in Chicago.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And, kind of connecting what you mentioned, because I feel like most guys have an Arnold story. And I, of course, have my own Arnold story. I remember.
I want to hear it. Tell me real quick. What is your Arnold story?
Mine is that I've worked out since I was in 7th grade. My first workout program book that I got was a Joe Weider program booklet.
Joe Weider, I loved it.
And I still have it in my desk next to me. Pull it out every now and then, just take a look at it. When I was a senior in high school, I actually did a book report on Arnold. And, most guys have their Arnold poster in the gym or whatnot. But what I really learned from Arnold is where physical exercise, what it does for the rest of your life, that preparation, that dedication, and how you can then apply that to different areas. That dedication that you show in the gym, that consistency, you can take that same model and do it with your studies. And it's that process of understanding that you put this hard work in, things are going to pay off for you inside the gym, with school, with work, and applying that across multiple areas of your life. It's so, I think it's life-changing in my opinion. And
absolutely.
And when you were speaking right there, I looked over to my right and I have a little quote on my wall. It's framed. It's kind of cheesy, but it says, "Forget yesterday and fall in love with the process of being great." So what's that process of what if it's your work? What's going to make your work better? And I think that for Fit Pros, education, I always come back to education, and I'm sure you do too.
Absolutely.
With where is it exercise science? Is that going to help you a little bit better? Is it going to be business aspects? Is that going to help you grow your career, stay within the industry?
Correct.
So it's really the process of being a Fit Pro that we learn more about. We get to stay in the industry, make a career out of it, and get to a point where we can share stories like us. But
absolutely. And I would agree with that. It's the discipline that you learn from working out that translates into everything. When you think about what makes somebody successful, and this is the analogy, because people often ask me, like, Dr. Osar, how do you get clients to do their exercises? They don't want to do their exercises, and it's pretty simple. Well, it's not so simple. The way to make it simple is, most of the clients that are coming to see you, they're successful in some aspect of their lives. They've run a successful business, or they're a successful business person, or they have a child, or children's. They have a successful relationship and or children. And I put it to them this way: could you haphazardly raise your children and expect your child to be healthy and a well-adapted child? Absolutely not. Could you take a haphazard approach to your business or your career and hope to have a successful career? Absolutely not. So then how can you have a haphazard approach to your health and hope that your health serves you in a way that you want it to serve you? You have to bring the same discipline to your health that you brought to raising a child, to raising or creating a business, or being a successful business person. And all of a sudden it sort of clicks in their brain, like, oh, sort of like the studying did for me. Clicked in my brain, like, oh, there's a process. There's a dedication and discipline to studying and learning and educating yourself. And it's the same way to helping clients and patients understand the importance of having that process for developing their health. And before we finish up, I would like to talk about a couple books that would be instrumental in, and I tell all clients to get. I mean, every trainer should have these books in their library. Number one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. The other book, which is very similar to it, but it's a little different, but very similar to it, is Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg. Because one of the things, these books are very instrumental, and I read James Clear's book last year. It was the best book I've read in years, and I'm currently working my way through Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg. And what it really stressed to me is the importance of having a dedicated set of habits, because really what creates anything, like when I teach posture and movement, it's really the thing that causes people osteoarthritic changes in their joints isn't your genetics. It isn't the, because you're old, because that's what a lot of our clients have been told. It's your posture and movement habits, your suboptimal posture and movement habits over time that ultimately leads to chronic degenerative changes, just like it did in my shoulders. It was those suboptimal, those non-optimal habits of my shoulders, squeezing down and back, using improper loads and exercises, not paying attention to my posture, my movement, my corrective exercises. And once I developed more optimal habits for posture, for movement, oh, lo and behold, my shoulders improved, my neck improved, my wife's headaches dissipated. So it's the same thing that you want to teach your clients, that you have to develop a certain set of habits around whatever it may be. Maybe around nutrition, maybe around movement, maybe around doing their exercises. It has to become a habit. And these two books are instrumental in showing clients that you don't have to do this complete, like people think they need to like clear everything out of their house and, have hours a day to exercise and dedicate to exercise. No. It starts with 1 minute a day. 1 minute, a tiny habit, 1 minute a day can completely change your life. Not that 1 minute, but the discipline that 1 minute gives, which is exactly what you're talking about, with what Arnold Schwarzenegger taught us as teenagers, is the habits that you take from working out are directly relatable to any aspect of your life that you want to change. And that's why these two books are so valuable, is you can learn anything, you can change anything in your life if you understand the power of habits, and then you have a way to actually incorporate more optimal habits. And both these books are instrumental in allowing you to do that. So I would really highly recommend every fitness professional have these books in their library. And one of the cool things I would suggest you do is just buy extra copies and give them away to your clients, because it's whatever, $16. And if your client reads this book, and if it comes from you as a gift, they'll probably read it. It can transform their lives, and they'll really get what you're trying to do with them.
Love it. I love it. I love it a lot. So, Dr. Osar, I'm just meeting and then connecting with you right now. I'm sure that we can go off on all these topics so much longer. But where can listeners find you? Do you have any events coming up that you want to share?
Absolutely. So you can find us at our website is www.iihfe.com. So it's Institute for Integrative Health and Fitness Education. And you can find us there. You can also find us on Instagram, IIHFE. You can also find me on Facebook. Our old company's name is Fitness Education Seminars. So we just kept it up because we had so many followers there already. So Fitness Education Seminars. You can also find us on YouTube at Fitness Education Seminars. We have over easily 300 videos. We are currently working on putting our Integrative Movement Specialist certification online. So we are moving towards that. Obviously, we're not doing any live courses anytime soon. We are presenting for Idea World Online coming up in it's coming up in August. And then we'll be presenting for FitnessFest also in September. So we've got a couple of live events coming up. And if you're looking for more specifics about, like I said, posture, movement, the assessment, the corrective exercise, and the functional training component of the integrative movement system, just check out one of our websites and stay tuned as we're bringing a lot of that content online, because that's really the future of our industry. I'm teaching for a master's program, the University, I should say Rocky Mountain University of Health Sciences. And it's my first venture into educating on that level of course. And I think you're also doing some online education as well. And it's a great way. I used to not, it used to be sort of standoffish about online education. And then I realized something's going to change, and we're going to go to online education. And lo and behold, COVID completely changed that. And it will never go back. Yes, we'll go back to live, education seminars, and nothing beats live training and education. But the reality is most education going forward will be in the online format. So what's great is we have these Zoom, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have other ways to communicate. And I think that's the power of social media and today's world is you can connect with people all over the world. We have a guy from India. He's like, yeah, put your education online, because I can't come to America. And I'm like, it's so cool to be able to connect with people all over the world through social media. And that's where I think social media can be used for a very powerful and positive way.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on, Dr. Osar. Really great episode.
Thank you.
I can't believe that was 50 minutes right there, I think. And it flew by. Really great episode.
Thank you so much. It was great sharing with you, sharing with your community. And I just want to leave everybody with a quick note. And, there's incredible opportunity. It doesn't matter what the economics are. There is always space for those passionate individuals who understand the importance of the process that they're taking themselves and their clients through, and who are truly passionate about transforming people's lives. And there will always be a place for those individuals. So keep following your passion, keep developing your process and honing your process, keep empowering your clients. And together, I truly believe that we can change the world.
Good stuff. Really good stuff there.